This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze, that journey through life. And today I'm going to take my guest on his journey. And the interesting part is, Bernd has his own podcast. So usually he's sitting in my seat rather than in the guest seat. And I think this is going to be sort of exciting because I want to know more about your podcast. I want to know what got you, number one, to say, hey, I have something I want to share? Two, how do I do it? Oh, I'm going to be a podcaster. Now,
Yeah,
Vern, you and I both know everybody out there wants to be a podcaster. And the reality of it is, you have to stick to it. You just don't make a podcast and hope millions of listeners are going to listen, because you're not going to get millions of listeners. Um,
no,
You could be Oprah Winfrey and you still may not get a million listeners. Um, so give us a little background and give us some insights so that our listeners can um, find what maybe they're looking for in your story.
yeah, I will do. Thanks for the
Thank
opportunity and
you.
thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely.
So, Karen, as I say on my LinkedIn profile, I'm a multi-talented generalist. I'm wearing glasses and I'm trying to, um, well, fix my life and fix the world because I see a lot of difficulties. I see a lot of problems in every street, in every news I get, and everything I recognize. So, what we all need to do is we need to take more care about us. We need to find ourselves. We need to find our own positions. And regarding our own positions, we can well evolve and we can make a better life for us, for our family, for the street, for the country, and for the global
Right.
planet.
So,
And it all has to start with us. So we are the initiation, and we need to do it from ourselves because nobody will solve problems for us, or so nobody will live our lives. So we have to do this by our own.
now, so many of us were brought up to be thinking about everybody else. Okay.
Mhm.
And oftentimes that means that we put ourselves last. And when somebody would say to you, what is it you want to do with your life? Well, you don't know anymore because you've been taking care of so many people. And I found that's how I was living my life, because I grew up with grandmothers and my mother always saying to me, if you're good to your brothers, they'll be good to you. So do all these things for them.
I
So I
know.
did.
Mm.
My brothers are good to me, but I don't think it was because of what I did. It's just we nurtured each other.
Yeah,
But I
it
did
was.
that in so
Yeah.
many other parts of my life that I woke up one morning and I was miserable. So is that what you see? Is that part of what your podcast is about? That don't wait until you're down and out?
Yes, yes, it is. So I have been a coach for the last years in business profession, and what I recognized, it's very important to ask questions to give people the chance to get a touch of themselves and well find themselves. And so I started doing a daily podcast in 1st of January 23 with a short daily question. I still continue with it in the second season now. And it's just a short question, and it should just remind people to think about something. Sometimes it's a bit weird, sometimes it's deep, sometimes it's funny, to get to find their self-consciousness and to find their inner self. So it's mostly done by questions, and I think this is the lowest the lowest frequency and the lowest threshold that we can use to get people involved. So nobody will sit down and make a course for 26 hours and invest a lot of money to find himself. But I think A lot of us would like to get a glimpse of what they really are and what they can do and what belongs to them and where they can find their own strength just by evolving and just by asking questions.
And one of the things that I've noticed specifically in my life that I always was trying to be like everybody else. And as I was trying to be like everybody else, I was a bully to myself because I wasn't meeting the standards. And I didn't realize how much I was hating on myself. And I remember going to a school reunion, and we have an elementary school reunion, which is just fascinating. But the first time I went, it was 20 years out of elementary school. And I assumed that everybody there saw me as a nothing. I didn't think anybody really cared about me, but I was going back just to observe. And I walked in the room and people approached me. How are you? Oh, I remember this. I remember that. And that was the day that I sort of woke up and said, what's my problem? I didn't think these people liked me.
Yeah.
But they did. They didn't see what was going on inside of me.
Sure.
So I love the fact that you do ask questions. We're supposed to ask questions of ourselves so that we can learn to be honest.
Yeah. And we can be honest because we are only responding to ourselves. And what we need is just to improve step by step and not see it as a big problem that we have to reach something. It's just a way to proceed on a way. And it's just, you get to know yourself better day by day if you, well, think about yourself. And this is important because we are educated systemically, so we are just playing some roles in life. And on the other hand, we are 8 billion people on this planet, and although we have a lot in common, everyone is different. So why shouldn't we take care about, well, 8 billion individuals on this planet as long as they have the chance to live in peace and communicate in a good way with each other?
So my sense of all this is that we have to almost start teaching our children at a very young age. They are okay with who they are. Milestones are great, for certain reasons, but when we start comparing our kids to each other, well, my oldest son walked when he was 8 months old. Oh, you're a year and a half and you still want to, crawl. Well, there doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that. They're just doing things in their own way. But yet, even in our families, we look at each of our children, we look at each other, and we make these assumptions that you're either top or you're bottom. And there's got to be a way for us to start changing this culture.
Yeah. But being top or bottom is the decision of the others. It shouldn't be our own decision. So we have to stick to ourselves and to know, well, is it my opinion what the others think about me, or do I have another opinion? But we are forced by the systems to regard and to think about what the others think about us. And children are very creative. So if children say, well, I'm an astronaut, they are an astronaut. You can talk to them as if they were in space or on top of a rocket, and they just feel that they are astronauts. And later in school, we get broken, and the people say, oh, you're stupid, and don't think about this and think about that, follow the rules. But it's a good way how the children think, and we should take care of this. And we can also learn from the children. It's not one way that the adults know everything. We know very little. and we can also learn from the children.
Well, let's talk about learning from your children. My youngest son was diagnosed on the spectrum, but he was 6 years old. Up until the day he was diagnosed, he was neurotypical. Nobody would have ever guessed. But he had these little things that were different. And so he got diagnosed. He came back to school with this diagnosis, and he was treated different. Not only was he treated different, his father and I were treated different. The friends we had just disappeared. It was like he had this disease. And that was the first time I truly found my voice. And it was like, well, I'm different. You're different. Same thing you're saying. We have similarities, but he's no different than he was yesterday. So why are you rejecting him today? And he's reminded me of this over and over again, because one day he said to us, what does this mean? That I'm different. I said, who told you that? He said, my teacher. I said, well, then you go back and ask her what she means by it. Because academically he excelled. He had been socializing until he got the diagnosis, and everyone assumed he couldn't socialize. So luckily, he's a very willed young man, and he's in his 30s now, and he's doing absolutely fine. He can make friends, and he has a career. And a lot of that was because we told him, do what you need to do. Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And, at 6 years old, he was going to be a Major League Baseball player. And I never said he couldn't do it. I said, these are the things you may have to do to get there. But if you want to try, then you do that. So your guests who come on your show, are they dealing with identity issues, or have they resolved those identity issues?
They have resolved their own issues. So every guest on my podcast has his own background, his own history, his own stories. And what they all did is they had a very different phase in their lives. So we all have our ups and downs. And what all people should know and should recognize, that there are always ups and downs. So nobody is always in a high flyer condition,
Right.
and nobody is always down to the ground and always sad and always diminished and always in a very bad condition. So we are all in our ups and downs, and it's just going in waves. And what we need to know is that nobody has to stay in a level that he doesn't like. So if you're in a low energy level, or in a bad mood, or if you need some protection, or if you have difficulties in life, in social life, in physical life, then you need to find your way, because everybody has a way to get out of these difficulties. And the guests in my podcast, they had totally different problems they accounted, and they tell about the ways how they solved their problems, and what they did from their experience, and how they contribute to the community to show other people, help other people, instruct other people, how they can find their way to find themselves.
And I think it's important for my listeners to understand that, you never have to truly be alone. Now, the people who you may turn to first may not be the ones who are going to be there to help you. Mm-hmm. And, I can go back in my life and identify that, I thought this person was going to be my savior. They were going to listen to me. And as soon as one word came out of my mouth, it was like, either I don't believe you, or I don't want to get into it. But if you really want to feel better, you have to keep looking.
Yeah.
and find the people who are not going to judge you. Okay.
Yeah. And there are millions out there. So there are people. Yeah.
And, you know, because we think that we need to be like somebody else, we sometimes accept those judgments of those other people. In fact, last week I was out sick for 3 days. And when I got back to trying to connect with people, I had someone say to me, "You couldn't have been that sick. How dare you? You had me scheduled 6 months ago." I said, "Well, I really apologize. And I do apologize, but I didn't plan on getting sick. I got sick. I couldn't get my head off the pillow. I wouldn't even let my husband get near me because it was like, that's how bad I felt." But this person who doesn't even know me was making judgments. Now, my old self would have fallen for them.
Yeah.
I'm such a terrible person. My new self says, "You know what? I can say I'm sorry, but that's all I can say.
Yeah.
And if you can't accept that, then you know what? I'm going to go on and find somebody else." And I cannot tell you how good that makes me feel because I took control rather than letting somebody else take control over me.
Yeah.
So, what was your background before you started doing your podcast that you said, "Hey, this is something that I think I can be good at, letting people have a voice and understanding"?
Well, I retired 2 years ago, and I was looking for a good way to put a big coat or a shell or something around my life work. So what did I do all the years that I worked, and what did I improve? What did I find? Where were the problems? Where were the solutions? And regarding all this, I thought there are a few ways that I can prolong being an active part of this world. And just by sharing and mentoring people and helping them, avoid those problems that we all know about. So you just talked about being judgmental, and we are being judged by people all the time. So if you come in a room and there are some people, they judge you within 2 or 5 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. So that should not influence us because we are individuals. So we can we can strengthen ourselves, and we can enter the room in another condition. We can say, "Okay, here I am. So let's see what's happening. What's going on here? Where are my friends? How do you respond to me?" And this makes a totally different reaction to the others. And well, to do this, you need to know who you are, who yourself are, and how you behave, and what you like. And you need to work on yourself and find a good and stable earth middle-centered position in life to do this.
So there's a saying that if you own the room, you're confident. And I hope people understand there's a difference between having confidence and being cocky about it. It's not walking in and, "Hey, everybody, I'm here and I'm the greatest,"
No.
whatever. It's about walking in the room and saying to yourself, "I'm going to find my comfort zone."
Yeah.
And that comfort zone may be over in that corner watching everybody. I may like doing that. Or it might be in the middle having conversations with people, or just picking one or two people to have a conversation with. So the other night, my husband and I went to a concert, a huge concert. We never go to big concerts, and our seats happened to be in the nosebleed, and I could not walk up the steps to my seat. So we were sort of standing in the area for standing room only. And I had this one guy who sort of like nudged me and said, "Ma'am, are you going to be able to stand here the whole time?" And I said, "Yes." And he reasoned, "Do you have a problem?" And he goes, "Well, you and your husband, I'm assuming he's your husband, look like you're elderly." So I wasn't quite sure how to take it, but I thought, okay, that's fine. I am older than him. He can see that. But if somebody had said that to me in my old self, I would have saw myself with a walker, close to 100 years old, not being able to move around. But instead, when he said that to me, I said, "No, we're fine. We can stand here." And we did for the whole 2 hours of the concert, because there was no way you were getting me up there. And I wasn't going to miss the concert. So that's how I owned the room. I didn't have to argue with him. I didn't have to ask him what he meant by it. It was just like, "No, we're okay. But thank you for asking."
Yeah.
Too many times we feel badly about ourselves.
Yeah. And we have a saying that is, well, act to people like you want to be reacted to, like the reaction you would like to get from them. So if you act polite to people, you can really expect that they also be polite with you. And if they don't react in a polite way, they are the wrong people and you should avoid any more contact with them. But mostly it works very well. And we all have a common sense. So we are our social people. And normally when you talk to people, when you meet people somewhere, we all have this social instinct in us, and people, they help each other, and they help each other when they get asked, and there are still some egoistic people who never would do this, but those people are the minority. So the most of the people, they will help you, and it's just they can only help you if you, well, get out of your shelf, if you get out of your cocoon, if you respond to people, if you be a part of life by yourself. So if you don't act, if you don't talk to other people, if you are not to be seen anywhere, so people are refused to well, help you, to talk to you, and to get a commercial life with you, and well, help you to be part of the community that you're in.
So on Facebook, I belong to a group called the Ethel Circle, and it's through ARP. And it's a group of women from probably age 45 to whatever. And what I'm hearing in the group a lot is a lot of dissatisfaction. And the dissatisfaction comes from either they weren't allowed, or at least that was their perception, to pursue certain careers, do certain things in their marriages, so many different things. And I always reach out and say, what is it you want to do today? Let's not worry about what happened yesterday. What would you like to happen today? And when people say, well, I want to have friends. Well, okay, maybe you've got, like you said, get out of that cocoon. There, in every community, there's some sort of religious establishment. You can start there if you want. There's some sort of community group. It takes that one step of making the call and asking. It also takes sometimes knocking on your neighbor's door and introducing yourself. You may have lived there for 50 years, but you have no idea who your neighbor is. we have to learn, like you've said, it has to come from us. Because if we sit and wait for people to come to us, they won't. And my husband and I went through this while we were raising our youngest son. Like I said, friends walked away. And we were both working, we were both busy raising him. And it wasn't until when he moved out of the house, the two of us looked at each other and said, do we have any friends? And so that was the time when we started saying, okay, these are the different places we're going to go. We're going to meet people, even if it's only for an evening, sitting at separate tables talking to each other. And it has done us a world of good. And we both have obviously made friends that we thought we would never, because we thought we were too old. No, you're never too old.
People told me, you can live your life, so you're independent, you're old, you don't have to stick to conventions, and you can do what you want. But that's not all. We need, there's a very big concept in life that's letting loose or letting go. And we all need to, in some parts of our life, we need to let go of what was and what has been. And we have to, well, take all our energy and, well, stick to something new that we never experienced before and that we never knew before. And maybe that what other people say, I would never do this, what you do. I would never do anything like this. But if it's your intention to do this, you need to let go and say, okay, this is your opinion. I have another opinion. And I think my life needs a change. And I won't complain, because complaining doesn't make it any better. So you don't get, Einstein once said, you don't get new results by always doing the same things. So we need some changes in life. And the best for these changes is if they come from us, if they are our willing, our ideas, if it's in our sense, if we do it like we want them to do, and not be pressured by other people that say, oh, you need to do this and that, and you need some change, and you need to follow what's up to date and what's going on. So you need to stick to yourself, and you need to be proud of yourself. And that very often sticks to letting go or letting loose and finding new horizons.
Absolutely. So how can we find your podcast? Because I know my listeners would get a lot of interest out of it.
Yeah. So I'm a German, as you can expect from my talking, but the podcast is in English, and you can find it on a website. It's berndwenske.de. It's BRNDWENSKE.de and / find yourself. And you can find it on all major platforms. It's on Spotify, on Amazon, on Apple, everywhere. So it's Find Yourself, the Questions podcast.
Well, we'll put all that in the show notes so people can start to follow you. You know, I just talk that we need to find that inspiration. And it may be in the first podcast they watch, it may be in the 100th. Yeah. Don't expect things to fall into your lap.
No.
I certainly don't expect that in my life. And just learn how to take care of you. We're the only ones who know what's important to us. You know, I've been married 40 plus years, and my husband knows me very well, but there are certain things he still does not understand. And that's okay. You know,
yeah, that's it.
It can frustrate me. That's all right. But it's just the way it is. Okay. He doesn't need those things. He works a 40-hour work week, but he has an hour drive to and from work. So during the week, our relationship is very minimal. And on the weekend, he's tired. And I finally have had to understand that it's okay. He needs certain space on the weekend. So when he's doing that, I find something for me. Whereas 20 years ago, I would have been sitting and brooding that, he's resting and I'm raring to go. Well, if I'm raring to go, I should go. And that's what I want my listeners to understand. Be your best self. Bernd, it was great having you on. And hopefully my listeners are going to pile over to your podcast here real soon. Okay.
Thanks. It was my pleasure. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me,
Have a
Karen.
great day. Bye bye now.
Bye bye.